Law.
Welcome to another edition of The End Zone, along with Cameron Johnson and Stone Weber. I am Colby Daniels. It is the unofficial, official, or official, unofficial start of the college football season. Big 12 Media Days is in the rearview mirror. We have SEC Media Days coming up, but Media Days is kind of that start. It gets the ball rolling and everybody starts to get the football fever, but I cannot believe we are already at this point where we are discussing football.
I feel like it goes from the end of the football season where you're kind of like, oh, there's so many months between now and football season, to all of a sudden football season is somewhat next month now, technically, or we're getting really close to it. And it goes from 0 to 100 really quickly, and I'm happy for it and excited that we've got the first media days in, and just gives you that extra level of excitement.
Yeah, I think everybody gets a lot more excited about it because it feels like it goes from, normally it's just baseball going on, but now you've got the World Cup and baseball, but now it's like, okay, the teams are starting to feel like football. You got the preseason rankings coming out, predictions, who's going to do what. So it does feel like the start of football.
The worst stretch of the year is the stretch between the end of the last media days and when practices actually start, because you get a little taste of football and then you have nothing for a few weeks and then it has to restart. So you kind of get that taste and you're hungry for more, but you have to wait a little bit longer. Big 12 Media Days, we got to talk about that. A lot that I think we've got to digest. But, I mean, Stone, you were there. What was the biggest takeaway, whether that's Oklahoma State or just collectively?
I mean, I would say, of course, the biggest takeaway was probably the Texas Tech, all the Texas Tech drama going on, people asking questions relating to Sorsby and how the Big 12 is navigating things, as well as the Monster Energy deal, right? At first you hear about it and you're thinking, wow, this is a great deal, but then it's like, the schools are only getting $1.25 million each, and the patches are on every jersey for every team. So that was a huge takeaway as well. But for Oklahoma State, it seems like everybody's really excited about the Cowboys, and not just, of course, people in Oklahoma or people in the Big 12, but national media as well. They think that they can really turn things around here in year one under Eric Morris.
Well, we will get to the Monster Energy deal. We will get to the Texas Tech stuff, which, I mean, almost seems like on social media was the headline from Frisco, Texas. But let's start with Oklahoma State. Obviously, haven't won a conference game in 2 seasons. Mike Gundy leaves last year, or was asked to leave last year. Enter Eric Morris. He brings a ton of the known commodities from a very successful UNT team a year ago, and you guys had the opportunity to speak with him. He spoke about taking on this unique challenge where you have a new team, but you also have familiar faces.
Yeah, I think just it's unique in being able to bring as many players as we did that are coming off really successful years last year, and at some key positions, quarterback, best running back, best wide receiver. With that being said, I firmly believe football games are won up front in the trenches, and so that's one area where I think we have a couple proven players, but we're going to have to really gel and come together and win the line of scrimmage to win some of these games in this conference. And so I think the parity in this conference is awesome, and so I think you look at the last 6 years, 6 different winners in this league. Just shows you that anybody could win any year. And so like where we're standing right now, we got a lot of work to do during training camp to get ourselves, over the top and ready to roll come first game.
It's a new team with a new coach, a lot of new personnel. Generally, that's not something that gives a fan base big expectations, but because a lot of those North Texas players had so much success, it feels like the Oklahoma State expectations are, I'm not going to say high, but higher than they would be for most teams that are going through an entire coaching overhaul and roster overhaul.
It's certainly an advantage to have that familiarity already in place, and from what Eric Morris has said, as well as the players, it sounds like everyone on the team is meshing really well. The question is, does that success automatically translate? Because while they did do a lot as a group last year, now they're going up against some Power 5 competition and just a different size, speed of the game. So it'll be really interesting to see, how that translates. But overall, I think the first battle with a new team is being in a good spot with your personnel mentally, and I think so far, based on what we've heard, they are.
And I think it helps too because he brought over a lot of his coaching staff from North Texas, 35 additional personnel, as well as all of his position coaches. So there is that familiarity, and of course, I think everyone seems to think the offense is, at least on paper, going to be really good. They will be able to perform. But the biggest question will be the defense, and I think it might be a little unfair for Oklahoma State going on the road against Tulsa, looking for revenge in that game, but then having to host Oregon in week 2. So if anything, it will bring excitement back to Stillwater, and it'll put the fans in the seats.
It's a massive game one. Obviously, they lost to Tulsa a year ago, and then a giant reality check as one of the top teams in the country, Oregon, comes to town. Despite the expectations, Drew Mestemaker is embracing any sort of big hopes and dreams that Cowboy fans have this season.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to have those expectations and kind of be in that position to have that opportunity to, win games and somewhat bring a team back. Like, to be at a place like this that I've had, the history of winning like they have, and to have 2 down years, like, I'm really excited to get this opportunity to kind of bounce back.
You gotta love when QB1 is embracing the expectations. He seems like he's ready to hit the ground running. Defensive end Jaleel Johnson was asked about the offense, and look, defensive guys never want to give the offense any credit at all, but he had a lot of good things to say about this new group.
We have an explosive offense, man, and it excites me because I feel like it's been a while since we had one of those. Obviously Caleb, Drew, Wyatt, Chris Barnes, Justin Boyd, all those guys, man, we have a great offensive line. I'm just very excited that they're on my team. I'm not going against them, man, and, I'm excited to see what they do this fall.
If this were fantasy football, you take all the skill guys, I think Oklahoma State might be preseason #1 in the Big 12, but offensive line play obviously matters. To your point earlier, defense matters. Those are, I think, the elements of this team that make it hard to sort of predict what is going to happen. The skill positions, they are set up to have big seasons, but none of that matters if you can't block, and none of that matters if you can't stop anybody.
I think going back to the familiarity, it's one thing when you have a new quarterback who comes in who's had a lot of success, but you bring in the guys who helped him have that success last year. That gives you a lot of confidence just from that standpoint that there is that chemistry there, and you hope on paper that it just picks up right where it left off. But yeah, again, just if you don't have a line that can block for you, and it makes it a lot tougher. And like I said, the competition's much more difficult at this level. So it's a big question mark, certainly.
No.
And there's also, there's a lot of question marks still. There's a lot of question marks around the Big 12, right? Everyone thought coming in the college football playoff favorite now doesn't have their starting quarterback. There's a lot of teams where you might think, okay, maybe Texas Tech is really good, BYU, Utah, TCU. There's a bit of a drop off there, and I think that's where it can come in and actually help Oklahoma State, because this league, as everyone knows, there's a lot of parity. Anybody can win any given week. So that can help Eric Morris and company, because they're not the only team in the Big 12 facing a lot of new.
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of compare them to what Indiana was able to do in year one. I think you should probably pump the brakes on that, but it does at least show you that there is a path for immediate success. All right, we've got to take a timeout, but I've got to show you the awkward Media Day moment on the other side of the break. Along with Cameron Johnson and Stone Weber, I'm Colby Daniels. You're watching The End Zone. All right, welcome back to the show. Big 12 Media Days in the books. We are recapping some of the headlines. Probably the biggest headline was everything that happened this offseason with Texas Tech, Brendan Sorsby, the Big 12, and how they handled the entire situation. An awkward moment took place on day one during Brett Yormark's address to the media and the Q&A portion when a Texas Tech reporter, Sean Dillon, asked Brett Yormark this and got obviously the response he got. It's been all over social media. It is not dying down, which I kind of appreciate, but take a look.
Texas Tech got fined over tortillas, and tortillas were banned outright. OSU paddles broke an always maker rule, has a tradition exemption. Sorsby never played a snap for the Red Raiders. Big 12 sued them anyway, while Cincinnati hasn't been yet touched. You're selling greater than 12. Why should Texas Tech fans believe it?
Can you sit? Let me come closer to you. Stand up. Ask that question again, and I'm going to give you the answer I want to give you, so go ahead.
Texas Tech got fined for tortillas, and tortillas were banned outright. OSU has had paddles that were given a noisemaker exemption back in 2012. Sorsby never played a snap for the Red Raiders, and yet there is a lawsuit. Cincinnati has yet to be touched. You're selling greater than 12. Why should Texas Tech fans believe them?
No, I didn't say greater than 12. You misquoted me. I said we're going forward as 16 strong, and that's my answer to your question. But thank you for that question. Appreciate it.
Gentleman in the black.
It is so unbelievably awkward. I saw one tweet that said Brett Yormark didn't have to club this reporter like a baby seal, which had me laughing hysterically. But what an awkward exchange. I think the comparisons by Sean Dillon were horrible.
Yeah.
And then Brett Yormark asking him to stand up, I think to cause a little bit of embarrassment with the whole thing. Like, unbelievable. I've probably watched it like 30 times, and it just gets better and more awkward each time.
The reactions of the guys behind him just say it best. I mean, it was just awkward is an understatement for sure. And yeah, the comparisons were just apples and oranges. I mean, you're talking about tortillas where they're literally throwing them on the field at times versus paddles that are noisemakers. And, you know, you're talking about a lawsuit and then Cincinnati, which Cincinnati has since been brought into the equation. But I mean, it was just overall such a secondhand embarrassment.
I'm sure Oklahoma State's sitting over there going, well, what did we do, right? And he said 2012. Brett Yormark was not in charge of the Big 12 in 2012. So very interesting and very awkward. And it seems like, if anything, you're just saying, I'm upset that this is happening to Texas Tech.
Right.
Why isn't this happening to Oklahoma State when this is over a decade ago? Anyone involved in that decision, most likely not involved with the conference anymore. So very bizarre. And I think people in the media and people around sitting there watching, like you said, it's like a car crash you can't look away from.
Yeah. He's trying to make it, he's trying to portray that Texas Tech has been unfairly treated. Look, the paddle thing, those aren't being thrown on the field. They also are not allowed to make the noise during play, right? It's when the ball is dead, essentially doing what the band would do. I mean, it's the same theory, so I don't even know why that is even brought up. Tortillas on the field are a completely different thing. The Big 12 got involved because Texas Tech is trying to play this guy. And Cincinnati is being investigated by the NCAA. Once again, a little bit different jurisdiction with those two things. And it was grasping at straws, and the whole exchange. There's no way that smooths over the relationship between the Big 12 and Texas Tech. It probably pours more fire or gasoline onto the fire. But my gosh, man, it was clearly the talk nationally of what took place at Big 12 Media Days. All right, we got to hit some Thunder talk real quick because they wrapped up their 3-game stretch in Salt Lake City, went 0-3. It wasn't a great showing from a team standpoint. They're getting ready for the Las Vegas Summer League games, which is really the big leagues of the Summer League games. Adai Mara spoke with the media about his focus, despite the lack of team success, his focus and what he's getting out of these matchups.
I feel like these games or practices are just to see or feel like things that you can do or maybe you haven't done in college or before, and just try to see if you can do it here or try just improve every day. So I'm just using these games to get better as a player.
There you go. He's using it to improve. I think he was labeled the Wemby stopper when he was drafted. I thought people had maybe way too big of expectations for what he was going to do out of the gate. What are your takes on what you saw from him in Salt Lake?
I don't know that he's quite lived up to those expectations quite yet, but I think he's been kind of fun to watch because he doesn't play as big as he is. Like, he can make some good passes. He moves like he's not 7'3", and his rim protection has been pretty good so far. So I think, like I said, not quite to those initial expectations yet, but I do envision him being used a lot in the future.
And it hasn't resulted in any team wins, but he's showing that he can score in a lot of different ways, right? You saw in the opener against Memphis, he's knocking down a fadeaway jumper on the baseline. That's not something you normally see your center doing. I think it's exciting to show that you have a big man out there where if Chet's not in the game, he might be able to score and contribute as well. But the Wemby stopper certainly is probably going to take a couple years to reach something like that.
Yeah, and the guy essentially only played 1 year of college basketball, didn't hardly touch the floor at UCLA before he transferred to Michigan. Once again, just give the guy a little time, give him a little grace with the struggles that pretty much every rookie in NBA history has. They've experienced those struggles. He is too. He obviously has a tremendous ceiling, and he's going to come along, but you can't necessarily expect too much out of him from the get-go. All right, we got to take a timeout. There's a world championship coming up in OKC. We'll tell you about it next right here on The End Zone. All right, we have some world championships coming up in the state of Oklahoma in a couple weeks. This is a really cool thing. The 2026 ICF Canoe Slalom World Championship is going to be at Riversport OKC. This is where the Olympics are going to take place in 2 years as well. I was able to go check out the course. It is amazing. I'm going to have an opportunity to try the course, which we'll show you on next week's edition of the End Zone. But I spoke with Chris Sorensen about all the events going on and what we can expect here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so we're hosting the ICF World Championships July 20th through the 25th. They are 9 to 5 each day with a lunch break in between, but it is the best of the best canoe, kayak, and kayak cross athletes in the world here competing for medals for their country. It kicks off on the 18th with the opening ceremony. So that's an evening opening ceremony. We've got all the flags that'll be brought in. We've got entertainment from music to dancers. And then when the actual event kicks off, we've got a whole bunch of food trucks each day that'll rotate out. We've got a different car show each day. One day is motorcycles. And then we've got expos where we'll have some of the outdoor industry leaders here showing off their new gear that people can check out. And so more than just the competition happening at Riversport during that week. Today, we're kicking off a flash sale on tickets. So today you'll be able to get a general admission ticket for $6 or a Prime View ticket for $12. We're gonna run that through the weekend. And they'll be able to actually go out on the island right next to the channel and watch. I mean, they'll be 6 feet away from the rapids watching these athletes come down. We'll also have some jumbotrons on the island and some jumbotrons over at the food truck area that people can watch from there. And then the finals will be broadcast on TV and online.
There you go. The things that those athletes can do in those canoes with the rapids and everything, it's amazing. So if you get the opportunity, make sure you go check that out. Before we take a timeout, World Cup is wrapping up. I about said Oklahoma. The United States of America, obviously disappointing finish, and it was such a brilliant run. I think people were so excited about the possibilities. The way that it finishes, how much does that sour what the, I think, overall excitement level was for soccer?
If it was just a loss, a close loss, I don't think it spoils this run. But for them to lose the way they did, and especially have the controversy leading into that game, I think that ultimately just messed with the team, and it showed up. But ultimately, it is a promising run that got a lot of new fans invested, and I think that's in some way what's important. But definitely, I think kind of a wasted opportunity.
I would agree. I think you see the team sheet, you don't see Kevin De Bruyne or Jeremy Doku. You're thinking this is everything lineup. Phil Balogun's back in the lineup, but the defense in the midfield really struggling. Couldn't maintain possession. Couldn't get the ball back, and gave up, frankly, some weak goals.
Yeah.
To play arguably the best soccer we've seen from them in a long time, and then go to the worst soccer we've seen from them in a long time. Essentially a no-show on the biggest stage perhaps in U.S. soccer history was a massive disappointment. But it doesn't take away from the excitement we all experienced, at points during this run. All right, we've got the closing argument with Noble McIntyre coming up next right here on the End Zone. Welcome back to the show as we wrap things up along with Noble McIntyre. I am Colby Daniels. We are officially at the unofficial starting point of the college football season as Big 12 Media Days has just passed us. SEC Media Days coming up in just a couple of weeks. One of the big headlines from Big 12 Media Days this week was the Big 12's agreement with Monster Energy and this partnership, sponsorship opportunity that exists. There's been, I think, a lot of praise and criticism over this specific sponsorship. So get your take. What do you think of where, I guess, college athletics is headed, and specifically this arrangement?
Well, I think the praise is, look, in this era of NIL, everything's for sale. Whether it's the flat surface of a dugout, an uncovered area of an end zone, everything's for sale to sponsorships. Putting a patch on a jersey is just the next logical step. The NFL does it. The NBA does it. It's the next thing happening. My criticism of this deal is it's not enough money. They got $20 million annually, which sounds like a lot, but it's only a little more than $1 million a year per school.
Right.
When you look at some of the other deals around the country, schools are cutting individual deals for much, much more than that. Monster could have never gone to a Big 12 school and done for $1 million what they are getting at each school. It's not enough money, but I think it's the idea that you have to do now in NIL.
I think especially if you are the Big 12 or you are the ACC or you're a Group of 5 conference, right? You're not competing financially with the dollars that exist in the SEC or in the Big 10. So I think you have to think outside the box on other ways to generate revenue. But to your point, I mean, to me, it seems like there could have been significantly better options if they had maybe explored.
Well, when you look at like a school like UNLV, who got what was it, $8 million over 5 years for a simple little patch. That's UNLV getting more per year. The Big 12 should have gotten a better deal. Again, I don't disparage the fact that they're doing deals. They're going to have to in this era. The days of where the head coach salary is the biggest expense are way behind us, but you have to strike a better deal than $1 million per year per school.
100%. Let us know your thoughts. It's just the tip of the iceberg with college athletics. That is Noble McIntyre. I am Colby Daniels. We'll see you next week for the closing argument.